Good afternoon. Before the council meeting starts today, we have some special presentations and proclamations. And I'm going to start off with introducing Matt Rosen, the chair of the Sister Cities Commission.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and Mr. Mayor. Anyway, it is my pleasure today, as the chair of the Sister City Commission, to introduce to you Hamatarim, which is translated means the vocal cords. They are a singing group from Akko, Israel, which will become hopefully our next sister city. They are here for actually a day. They are traveling throughout the Midwest and giving concerts, and we thought a really good way and kind of a first exchange, unofficial exchange, would be to have them sing a song for our pleasure. And they also brought with them a letter from the mayor of Akko. So if you could start by reading the letter and then your performance, guys, that would be great.
Hello. You can hear me? Okay. So I will read a letter from the mayor of Akko, your future sister city. And greetings from Major Shimon Lankri to the people of Des Moines. To the people of Des Moines from the mayor of Akko. We look forward to creating a sister city relationship between the city of Akko and the city of Des Moines. We have had a very fruitful relationship for many years with the Jewish Federation of Des Moines through partnership together, and we look forward to expanding and growing that relationship into a sister city relationship with the city of Des Moines. The city of Akko has a 5,000-year history, and we look forward to sharing that heritage along with our modern day reality with the people of Des Moines. We have resources and challenges around which we can connect, and we will think together how we can all benefit by creating this unique relationship between our cities. I am personally pleased that my daughter, Nitzan, which is one of the people in the group, can deliver this message in person. I'm not Nitzan, okay? I'm just, just to make sure I'm coming with the group. I'm working in a partnership in the Jewish Agency, and I came with a group to the U.S. And I'm proud that she, together with her peers from Akko, will be performing in your city. Enjoy their talent and spirit, and may this be the beginning of many opportunities to connect in the future. Sincerely yours, Shimon Lankri, Mayor of Akko.
I want to thank everybody and our friends from Akko for coming, and as mayor of the city of Des Moines, we certainly welcome you, look forward to your performance, but also look forward to our relationship with Akko, and hopefully we can begin laying out all the parameters around what that relationship looks like moving forward, so it's as it moves forward, it's mutually beneficial both for your city and for ours. And with that, they're going to come up and perform here for a second. So let's give them a great big hand. And all right, there you go.
This is Mayor County.
Well, let's great job. Thank you. Enjoy it very much. I think I recognize the tune. All right. It was. Thank you very much. All right. I think that was Let It Be, folks, but all right, let's give him another hand. Thank you. For those of you who don't know this individual, this is Matt Rosen.
For those who want to hear more, they will be performing tonight at 7 o'clock at Casper Auditorium in Waukee. So another chance to hear the group if you're interested. And if you're done with council business, it's a nice night to do it. Thank you.
Just do your best, Keith.
Oh, whatever.
All right, now for our next act, we've got the proclamation actually today. Whereas the city of Des Moines strives to maintain a healthy natural environment for its citizens and its guests, and whereas trees are one of Des Moines' most valuable natural resources that clean our air and water, sequester carbon, help to conserve our soil and energy resources, provide critical wildlife habitat for numerous animal species, and help make our community and the world a more pleasant place to live, work, and visit. And whereas trees in our city increase residential property values and enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, and whereas the protection and preservation of our urban forests for the benefit of our citizenry today and future generations depends on the city of Des Moines. And whereas Des Moines has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue our reforestation and management programs toward ensuring the future of our urban forests and trees. Now therefore I, the Mayor of Des Moines, on behalf of our City Council and all the citizens of the City of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 27, 2012 as Arbor Day and urge all of our citizens of Des Moines to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to plant, protect, maintain our urban forest. Let's give these guys a great big hand. 20 years, and I'm going to ask our new municipal arborist, David Yan, to come up. He's got a couple of presentations.
Stand by.
Okay, stand by.
Right. I want to let you know, Mayor, that I'm proud of my team members each and every day, but they really shone from last Saturday forward, the April 14th wind event that we had. And it's because, at least partly because of this great team that I have, that we are entering our 20th year of Tree City USA status. Tree City USA is an offshoot of the Arbor Day Foundation. And to qualify for Tree City USA status, we need to accomplish 4 things. You have to have a tree board or department. You have to have a tree care ordinance. You have to have a community forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita. And the final requirement, which you've just completed, we have to have an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. So, Mayor, County, and Council members, we're pleased this year to be awarded our Tree City USA citation for the 20th year. That's worth a hand.
All right. I'm going to put it on. Don't worry about it.
If I can jest with you, Mr. Mayor, do you have a big head or something?
You want me to answer that?
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of knowledge that I gained from all these people up here.
That's right. There you go.
All right, thank you.
Citation, our award, and then our deposits back here.
All the way to back. All right. You got one? You got another one right here. Let's move these away so we can get to see our Tree City USA Arbor Day.
We can even do a different, are we all in?
Yep.
All right? Trees. Good. Okay. All right, we're going to take the microphone back. Let's be the microphone. You are on the air. Right here in the middle. There you go.
We have two more presentations today, Mr. Mayor. Last year was our first year hosting a champion tree program. I'd like now for Tim Chapman and Mark Brown to make their way to the front, please. The Tree Champion or Champion Tree Program is a program where our citizens, come on up, right here, where our citizens nominate the largest tree they can find in its species, and we hope that that's the winner for the year. And so, Mr. Mayor, this one is for Mark Rao to your left, and Mark Rao is being recognized for nominating a northern catalpa, 16 feet 3 inches in circumference and 76.5 feet tall at the Woodland Cemetery, and congratulations, Mark.
Thank you. All right, this one's still standing?
Yes.
Yes.
I toured the park on Friday, we didn't see any trees then, so. And Mr. Mayor, Tim Chapman is being recognized because he has nominated a tree, an American elm, at 2009 East 27th Street. So this is the champion private tree nomination for this American elm that measures 13 feet trunk circumference and 84 feet tall. Congratulations, Tim.
All right, congratulations. All right. Do you want to stand up and get another one without our photographer in front of you? Sure. All right, go ahead. Go for it. Got it? Okay, good. You know, any more? Okay, got enough.
And then finally, Mr. Mayor and council members, we have a brand new program in the city, and I want all my tree keeper graduates to come to the front, please. We have a brand new program in conjunction with Trees Forever, which is an Iowa nonprofit that does work regionally in Missouri, Minnesota, Iowa. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting any other states. But together we formed a citizen tree keeper training program. These folks are going to help us work with young trees in the city, doing minor pruning from the ground only, no ladder work. They're going to do mulching and weeding and all kinds of good things. I recognize that young man in the back row. He's one of our own, Mr. Kuzitsa. And so we want to recognize all these folks for their dedication and passion for trees. Thank you very much, tree keepers.
We got to get a picture of all the tree keepers. You guys are tree keepers.
I'm a tree keeper.
You gotta get the mayor in there too.
Ready? All right, thanks.
Got it?
Got it.
Good, all right.
Thank you.
And as everybody is sitting down, I think that we ought to, one more time, thank our forestry department and all the work that they did in cooperation with Public Works and our Parks Department in getting our streets cleaned up unbelievably fast after that devastating storm we had a little over a week ago. And I want to thank you not only for the City Council, but for all the citizens of the City of Des Moines. Job well done. Let's give them one more hand. Okay, we have, I'm not sure there's anybody here to represent the administrative professionals. Are you? One right up. All right, why don't you quickly tell us what's going on this week and then we'll talk.
I'm Mary Ann Moore. I'm here on behalf of the Hawkeye chapter of the International Associations of Administrative Professionals, and this week celebrates and recognizes all that we do to basically keep the world running.
That's good, all right.
Well, at least that's what we think. Admins are very important to most
Absolutely.
offices.
And you notice that only one came, the rest of them around still keeping the world running, so she's the one that's going to accept this proclamation. So whereas administrative professionals play an essential role in coordinating office operations of business, government, educational institutions, and other organizations, and the work of administrative professionals today requires advanced knowledge and expertise in communications, computer software, office technology, project management, organization, customer service, and other vital office management responsibilities. And whereas Administrative Professionals Week is observed annually in workplaces around the world to recognize the important contributions of administrative support staff and is sponsored by the International Association of Administrative Professionals. And whereas the theme of Administrative Professionals Week 2012 is admins, the pulse of the office, reflecting the fact that the lifeblood of modern business flows through and depends on highly skilled administrative professionals. Now, therefore, I, the mayor of the City of Des Moines, on behalf of our City Council and the citizens of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim the week of April 22nd to 28th, 2012 as Administrative Professionals Week, and Wednesday, April 25th, 2012 is Administrative Professionals Day, and call all of our employers to support continued training and development for administrative staff, recognizing that a well-trained workforce is essential for success in today's business world and certainly in city government as well. So Mary, thank you very much, and I'm going to give you this for representing the group, and let's quickly get a picture. All right, thank you. All right. Should we be different this time? All right, City Council meeting. All right, wait a minute. We got a special presentation. Skip more.
And I have Councilman Myers up here, please.
Hang out, I'm next.
I'm going to stay here. I don't know. That's not coming through.
A lot of people don't realize it, and they probably don't want to believe it, but city council members are city employees. Brian Myers, I believe, was sworn in on January 22nd of '07. So it's with my pleasure as Mayor Pro Tem to present you with a 5-year pin.
All right.
Thank you. Second up, Mayor Frank County was first sworn in on January 1 of 2002, and as Mayor Pro Tem, it's with great pleasure I present you with your tenure.
All right, thank you very much.
As for the last several years, I've been asked to do the invocation on the night that we do the Arbor Day proclamation. And this year I found, I guess it's a poem, it's from Elon Shamir, and it's called Advice from a Tree. Boy, it's a heck of a tree there. I've asked our friends from forestry to hang around to hear this. I think they'll really understand this. Dear friend, stand tall and proud. Sink your roots deeply into the earth. Reflect the light of a greater source. Think long term. Go out on a limb. Remember your place among all living things. Embrace with joy the changing seasons, for each yields its own abundance. The energy and birth of spring, the growth and contentment of summer, the wisdom to let go of leaves in the fall, the rest and quiet renewal of winter. Feel the wind and the sun and delight in their presence. Look up at the moon that shines down upon you and the mystery of the stars at night. Seek nourishment from the good things in life, simple pleasures, earth, fresh air, and light. Be content with your natural beauty. Drink plenty of water. Let your limbs sway and dance in the breezes. Be flexible. Remember your roots. And most importantly, enjoy the view. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 23rd, 2012 Des Moines City Council meeting. I will now ask the clerk to take roll, please.
County.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Grease. Here. Mahaffey. Here. Hensley. Here. Meyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended. It's been moved. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Item 3 is approving the consent agenda. Tonight, those are items 3 through 32, and those are going to be presented as routine items and will be enacted on one roll call vote without separate discussion unless somebody, either the city council or from the audience, pulls one for further discussion. This evening, on those items 3 through 32, item 6A, Councilmember Moore has asked to speak. Item 8, Councilmember Hensley is asked to speak. And item number 29B and 29C, Councilmember Moore has asked to speak. Are there any other items in that consent agenda that anyone would like to have pulled for further discussion? All right, could we have a motion to move the balance? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The item passes. Takes us to item 6A. 6A is ordering construction of the following: Columbus Park and McHenry Park water features, receiving the bids May 8th of 12 and setting the date of hearing for May 21st. The construction estimate is $400,000, and the council communication number 12-180. Mr. Moore.
Well, I just thought it'd only be apropos when you look at the construction estimate on this, line 30, that trees have become such an integral part with what we're doing in everyday business with the city that we're planning on spending $18,000 for a concrete tree. And I just wanted to point that out, and I'm going to go ahead and move 6A.
Seven yes.
Takes us to item 8 was approval of contract and bond and permission to sublet on the Hubble Elementary School Enhanced School Crossing, $228,938.25. Council Communication Number 12-184. Councilmember Hensley.
I just wanted to report back that we did have a meeting this afternoon before with Mayor County, City Manager. We had staff that were attended as well, Jeb Brewer, Alan McKinley, Traffic and Transportation. And we did discuss the role of the schools in this particular project, as well as projects going forward. I believe the consensus was that we wanted to move forward with this project, and that we needed to develop a template that would be applicable for future projects, not only for the Des Moines schools, but I think Joe Jungleward also made a push that we include other nonprofits, i.e. Drake University, Grandview University, Des Moines University, and that would be a template that could be used with those as well. So it was a positive meeting, and I feel that we need to move forward with this project, even though there's no ability for them to be able to participate in this project, but we've clearly set the stage for future. Rick and the mayor, you were.
Mr. Manager, Ms. Hensley, I think you've covered it pretty well and kind of it explains our intent. Mr. Manager?
Mayor and council members, I would agree. I think Christine said it very well. This is an opportunity, I think, for the city and the school board to work collaboratively on looking at different projects. In this case, improvements that relate to streets or sidewalks that are traffic safety related to the school itself. And I think it's a great thing for us to do. And frankly, the discussion broadened it out from just those kinds of traffic improvements to other kinds of things that we can do together. So I thought it was positive, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to you at some point in the future with something meaningful in the way of cost shares on different projects.
All right. Any other comments? Anybody? All right.
I'll move item 8. Seven yes.
All right. Takes us to item 29B, which is bids for the following. B is Bonnie's Barricades. Bonnie Ruglis, president, for the annual contract with 2 additional one-year renewal options to furnish traffic safety devices for use by the Public Works Department. Annual estimated cost of $80,000. There were 4 bids mailed and 3 received. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I saw this. My question on this is this to augment our current people, or is this replacing some positions?
Mr. Mayor, I'm asking, Bill, could you comment on this one, please?
While it's coming up, I'll ask that anybody that might have a phone, we'd like to ask you to put it on off or vibrate or something so it's not disruptive to the meeting.
Mr. Moore, Bill had asked me to play a special tone every time he came up to speak, kind of as an introduction to him.
That wasn't what I asked for.
Yeah, but in line of the earlier act,
I
we
really
expect you
prefer
to
you
sing
sing
it
it out
today.
loud,
We want a little serenade. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moore, would you repeat your question on 29B?
My fault.
Mr. Coleman threw me off so badly there.
We're going to call you up more often now. I was just wondering, is this to augment our current services, or is this to replace people?
It is not intended to replace people.
Okay.
Skip. As you know, we have an annual contract with Bonnie's Barricade, certainly predating my time with the city. This is not intended to replace people. It's intended to provide the necessary safety devices that we think are important to us as we do our projects. Some of that work, as you know, are done by light duty folks. We don't think that's the best use of their time and talents. We're trying to find a higher productive use for them. This is not replacing people, to go back to your original question.
Thank you. I'll move 29B.
Seven yes.
The other item pulled is 29C, Quality Painting, Pat Dawson, President, for the annual contract with 2 additional one-year renewal options to furnish graffiti removal services for use by Parks and Recreation Department. The annual estimate is $125,000, and 3 bids were mailed and 3 received. Mr. Moore.
My question on this is, are these people going to be doing the graffiti removal on trees, or are we still going to be doing that in-house?
Mayor, County, members of City Council, Don Tripp, Park and Recreation Director. The practice of graffiti removal on trees would not change, Councilmember Moore. This removal is on buildings and bridges and areas where we require either sandblasting, water blasting, or paint removal, but it's not my understanding we'd be doing anything with trees on this.
Thank you. I'll move 29C.
Seven yes.
All right, that completes the consent agenda and takes us to item 33 from Councilmember Christine Hensley to discuss complaints received about peddlers in Des Moines. Mrs. Hensley.
It's the time of year again when we have a lot of individuals coming into the community that are salespeople going door to door selling magazines primarily, although I did run into a vacuum cleaner salesperson. And there have been a lot of complaints with these individuals as to the aggressiveness and not letting people say no, they're not interested. I know we have this discussion that comes up periodically every 3 or 4 years, I believe. But in checking with the city clerk's office, there have been far more complaints that have been called into City Hall. A couple of complaints that I received just in the last week, I thought really bordered on whether or not there could have been legal action taken against them, or police should have been contacted. One of the individuals did follow up with the police department, and the police department specifically indicated that there was an ordinance in place if they felt that it should be strengthened or there should be changes, that they needed to come and bring it to the city council. Therefore, what I'm asking is a couple of things. Number one, that we have some discussion at the council table regarding whether or not it makes sense to have a moratorium during this time period to allow us to look at additional options that could be included in the current ordinance. Examples would be doing background checks on the individuals, going through the sex registry to see if they've been found, if they're on the sex registry. There's just a whole laundry list, I think, that if the staff has come up with that I think we need to look at and see whether it makes sense. But most importantly, having identification that gives the name, what the name of the company is that they're representing, even a photo ID on it to make sure, because they're coming in from other parts of the country. They're not just local organizations, they're entities that are coming from Georgia and other states, and they come in and they're dropped off and they're extremely aggressive. They're targeting specific neighborhoods, and I'm sorry to say, but they're also targeting the more senior citizens, and that's where I've gotten calls from that the senior citizens are really fearful and they're not able to say no to them. So I would just like to refer it back to legal city manager's office to look at some additional options that could be included that can strengthen the ordinance. And the other thing I've learned, they don't have the same flexibility out in the suburban communities that they have in Des Moines. Our ordinance is a lot laxer. than what they have out in the suburban communities. And in talking with the city clerk, maybe this is an issue that we need to look at on a metro-wide basis so that we have similar ordinances, no different than what we did with the vicious dog, because you're passing them back and forth from one community to another, where it's easier for them to get around the process of getting the permits. So I know that's a lot, but it is an issue. It's the time of the year. I know that's what brings it out, but it seems like we're getting many more complaints than what we've had in the last couple of years. So I guess question number first would be to refer it back for review with city legal, city manager, but then the question would be, can we impose a moratorium for an X amount of time, because this is when we have so many individuals requesting the permits, to give us a chance to strengthen the ordinance. And I'll look to legal on that.
Mayor and council members, that's a great question, and that would be probably a pretty effective mechanism. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a constitutional mechanism. A moratorium, for example, in zoning does not involve a fundamental right under the U.S. Constitution. Solicitation, including begging, if you will, has been held by the U.S. Supreme Court to be a First Amendment protected constitutional right. Deprivation of a fundamental constitutional right, even for a day, is a deprivation of a fundamental constitutional right. We will certainly assign senior staff to this from my office, and we'll get to work on it with the manager's office right away. We'll move it as quickly as we can, but I would advise against a moratorium as a mechanism to deal with it, simply because it'll create a constitutional problem.
What would be the timetable then that you think you could come back with some recommendations?
And I would think that within just a couple of weeks, certainly within a month, we can review what the other cities are doing. We'll review all the constitutional questions that would surround both the peddling and the solicitation ordinance that we have in Des Moines for going door to door, for lack of a better term. I think we can do that pretty quickly on our end, and I leave it to Rick to let me know if we need to go further, but I would think within a couple weeks, month at the outside.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'd like to see it explored as going into a regional. I think Christine mentioned that. I think it'd be great to have a common ordinance for all of our surrounding communities.
I like that. I think it has great possibilities. My only concern is, having dealt with MAC, and Mayor, you can back me up on this, getting a regional ordinance takes a little longer than what I would like to see us. So maybe we can strengthen ours as a first step, and the second step would then be to look at it on a regional basis, and then with an understanding that we would be open to changing it based upon the region. Because we're clearly the least difficult community to get a permit right now. Everybody else has much stronger language.
I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's high time. I've seen a lot of people on our street, not just encyclopedia salespeople and college students, but siding and, roofing after the storms a couple weeks ago, tree people, climbing around. And I think it's fair to think not just about the annual kind of seasonal thing, but what happens when there are storms. There are a significant amount of professional storm chasers that often don't use the most reputable processes and so forth. Skip and I have talked about this a lot, because I don't think I have a conflict here, Mr. Lester, but in my work at the Better Business Bureau, we're talking to cities all over that have complaints about people that are peddling and checking to make sure that they have a door-to-door license. In Iowa, we call it a peddler's license. So I hope that we address it, and I've certainly seen examples that are much stronger than ours are, and I think that we owe it to people. I also think that a moratorium is, as much as I'd love to see us pass one, I think that even just in the marketplace, it's not very fair to give the couple of ciders and encyclopedia salespeople the monopoly on Des Moines this summer. Nobody else can come get a permit, and they can free reign in the city. I don't think that that's necessarily the fairest way to approach it. I wish there was a way to shut it down quickly or to establish something as quickly as possible.
Any other thoughts, Mr. Manager?
I think your conversation's great, and I'll help Jeff, and our staff will help Jeff in putting some things together for you. One thought is just blending together your ideas. We may want to think about putting something into effect as quickly as we can. I think that's the sense of what you're saying, and then pursue the metro approach subsequent to that. But as we put together that quick piece, we can also do a survey of other cities to see what their ordinances call for. So if we can mirror something that might make it easier to get to a metro approach, we'll be able to do that more quickly. But we can certainly move on it quickly.
Would it be possible, excuse me, would it be possible in the interim, just because I know that there's so much of this going on, to have the council receive notice of where permits or who are receiving the permits? And do they have to actually describe when they request a permit? Are they going to go throughout the city of Des Moines? Are they going to go to a specific area? So that as we're getting calls, we can respond? Because a lot of times you get these calls in the evenings, on the weekends. Is that possible? I guess I'm looking to the city clerk, probably.
Yeah, the permits allow you to go citywide, and we don't currently ask what parts of town they're going to be in, but it would be real easy to just let council know of each permit. Currently, there are no licensed peddlers in Des Moines right now. So if if someone knocks on your door, ask to see their permit, and that's the best advice I can give right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the motion is to refer
it
to city
back.
manager and legal
Correct.
for recommendation within the month.
Thank you.
Bob?
7 yes?
All right, next item is a council request from Councilmember Brian Meyer to discuss designated music venue ordinance. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. This has to do with something that we looked at a couple years ago with all age shows, and specifically letting them into some of the adult venues. The reason I'm bringing this forward is because Woolies, which is down on 504 Locust, approached me about it and wanted to see if we could take another look at this. I talked to Chief Bradshaw today. She had some concerns and about this particular ordinance, but I was hoping that we could revisit it. I know it expired, I think Chief Bradshaw said last year, and you want to come up and address this? And we had tried it, and my understanding is that only House of Bricks had actually tried to do it, and it deals with designation of food versus alcohol sales. But I want to see if we could be creative, find a way that we could get some more all-age shows for some of these venues, and I don't know if you want to address some of what I've said.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Judy Bradshaw, Chief of Police. Just a little bit on the history. On the recommendation of the Music Commission, it was passed on February 5th, 2007. The original, what you would call the designated music venue ordinance, with a one-year automatic sunset. House of Bricks, I think, was the only establishment. I've got Doug Phillip here, our legal advisor, to correct me if I'm wrong. They were the only ones that applied. They did not meet the standard, which was the 50% food sales. So that did sunset. And then went back to the Music Commission. There were several conversations that were held. We looked at it, and we've looked at other jurisdictions, Iowa City, other cities of similar size that are, I know a lot of these bars want to bring in more revenue, and they view a way to do that by having potentially live music and mixing 16-year-olds in with adults. And we've got several concerns with that mix, especially in a bar setting. We realize that there's, music venues, Wells Fargo, scenarios where there are adults with younger teens that their parents either allow to go or they bring them with them. But in a bar setting, those are very difficult to enforce. I've respected the council's view on the Class C, liquor violations, and it's difficult to reconcile that with allowing teenagers in a bar shoulder to shoulder being served, it's really, there's a lot of loopholes to that. Kids can get a hold of the alcohol, and they're difficult for us to do enforcement. And quite frankly, I don't have the resources to go out and to look at potentially the number of venues. But I did express to Councilmember Meyer that we would take a look at it. I think probably at first blush, I'll have my vice lieutenant sit down and talk with the owners of Woolies and see what it is that they're looking at. Potentially we'll have legal involved in those conversations and see if maybe there's something that we can work with them on, knowing that would also impact, those others in the cities. So we're willing to take a look at it and revisit it, but I am really proceed with caution on this. I really do. It's just my view and my conversations with my peers across the country.
I appreciate that. And the intent tonight is just to say, hey, let's take another look. I'd like to open it up a little bit more. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for these, for very specific venues that have more. I think the way I look at it is there's, more live music is better for the city as far as being in the East Village and Court Avenue. And as I understand it now, they do have all age shows. It's just a matter of when they can be in those venues, and so we're just extending it a couple hours. I just have a different view on it, but I understand your concerns, and so I'll kick this back to the city attorney, the city manager, specifically the police chief, to see if we can sit down with the music commission again and Woolies and their lawyer Lloyd Ogo to see if we can come up with something that'll hopefully work for everybody. Thanks. So that's the motion, is to
refer to Councilmember Meyer to take care of this.
If I had my way, it'd be. Thanks. I'll refer it to the city manager and the city attorney.
7 yes.
All right. Item 35 is a special presentation and report from Big Yellow Bike LLC regarding multi-passenger bike tours in downtown Des Moines. So if they are ready, let's have a quick look.
Mayor, members of the City Council, Laura Graham, City Manager's Office. It's my pleasure to introduce to you David Welch. He's an entrepreneur here in Des Moines who came to city staff a couple of weeks ago with a pretty unique new project, and I will let him explain a little bit about that to you.
Hi, I'm David Welch. Recently we found a bicycle we want to purchase. We'd like to run it in the Court Avenue, East Village districts. It's kind of touring. You'd rent it, take it out, have some fun with it. If you look on your screen there's the bike. It is made in Amsterdam. We do have it ordered. It takes 6 weeks to get here, so we have about 4 weeks to go till it arrives.
Can we have the beer keg and tap too?
What's that? It does come with a beer keg. It is functional. We are not planning on serving on the bicycle due to the laws, open container laws and everything. How do I hit?
Page down.
I've lived in Des Moines since 2001. Right now I'm a realtor. I am a member of the 132nd Fighter Wing, and we're probably going to be trying to pull some of our staff, our drivers, from that, especially if they close their doors or reduce the size of the 132nd. Here's a quick video. This is not what we're planning on doing, but this is a video to kind of show you how the bike works and people having fun. I think, does this play?
It's a separate one that plays on there once you're done.
Go ahead and flip through these and then we'll play the video.
So we'll have a short video here when I get done. The bike holds 15 passengers, 10 pedalers, 4 non-pedalers, and then there's a 3-person bench on back. We do have all the insurance. You'll sign a disclosure, a waiver before you get on. And if you're under 18, you'll have to be signed off by your parents or guardians. Like I said, we do not serve alcohol. It does have blinkers. We are going to put a slow-moving vehicle sign on the back. It only moves about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So And it can't go up hills very well, so that's why we like the downtown area, because it's very flat.
What's the maximum speed of an F-16?
Oh, well, as fast as you want to go. You'll probably run out of gas before you reach it. So. Probably Mach 2.5, I bet. I kind of already went through most of this. Like I said, we're thinking about doing a farmer's market route, a quick little 6-block thing, maybe around. We've talked with a traffic coordinator to kind of figure out a good plan that will stay out of people's ways. Like I said, it does only go about 5 or 10 miles an hour, so we want people to be able to flow as they would through traffic normally. And we're also available for parades and things like that. We are currently working on the grand opening. Like I said, it's 6 weeks to get here. We'd sure love to have you guys come along for one of our test rides around downtown and check it out for yourself, if you'd like to. I didn't bring a sign-up sheet. I didn't know how this all worked. I'll probably get with one of the ladies that I've been talking to get with you guys if you're interested in doing such a thing. Like I said, we have a ton of things to work out. We do not know how this is going to go. We hope it goes well. It's running in a lot of cities. The guys that I talked to that sold me the bike have it running in 17 different cities across the nation, and they're all doing good. You know, they love it. There's I think they did 2,200 tours last year in Minneapolis. The bike runs out for about $300 a tour, so they brought a lot of revenue to the state there, and the city, of course. So, and here's the video of that bike.
While it's loading, I guess I think this is a great idea. But I guess I'd prefer you test drove it before I rode on it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Error has occurred.
Okay, that's fine.
We have the one guy. I don't know if you guys were on the council at the time, but the guy came with the rickshaw and the
pedicab.
Pedicab, yeah, that's what it was. So I think he had some of the same issues that you might run into, which is liability insurance and.
Yeah, we checked with several different insurance companies. We had 3 quotes actually drawn up, and we have about $2 million in liability, everything like that. And since they're established, it is there's companies that actually have plans for this. So we will be fully insured. We're going to keep the bike downtown right here in the garage. And
I think it's great. I just what did we have for regulation on him? I think he just made sure that with the city that he had the liability insurance, and that was it, wasn't it? I mean, I think
Very similar. Laura.
I think that's the same thing that would
I
be.
rode on that thing. It was nice.
Did you?
Yeah.
It was down at the fence.
I want to see you on this thing. So.
Yeah.
I think we should leave a council meeting and go down.
Tap the keg.
I can answer some questions.
Yeah,
about-
Jennifer probably has more answers.
I can answer some question about the rickshaw you mentioned and also this. They actually both fall under our bicycle ordinance, both a 4-wheel vehicle and a 3-wheel vehicle. So we don't have any requirements.
Give us your name and address for the record.
Jennifer Bohack, City Traffic Engineer. Mayors and members of the council. As I mentioned, so this does not fall under our ordinances of anything that we license. So it falls under our bicycle ordinance. We do not license. We do not have any insurance requirements or anything like that. He has to follow the rules of the road and all the other types of operation that's required in that bicycle ordinance at this time. So we have made some recommendations as far as having the slow vehicle sign, and we're going to work with his company on defining routes and things to make sure we have good traffic flow and we're not going to have impacts or any safety related concerns. So we'll continue to work on that. We don't have any requirements at the time outside of the bicycle ordinance.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
I'll move to receive and file the information and work with staff where need be.
All right. Mr. Coleman.
7
Thank
yes.
you. All right, let's mark that we're going to open the hearings at, let's call it 5:03. The first item on the agenda this evening is item 36. It's on a hearing for Hamad G. Koko Ahmed of 3800 Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway regarding a recommended denial of a taxi cab license, and this was continued from April 9th of 12.
Thank you again for welcoming me again. I'm back again because I've been told kind of like the last 2 weeks to go and bring the request from a taxi company. And I went through 3 taxi cab, like the yellow cab and United cab too, and also some Jamaican company cab. So 2 of those I couldn't get a request from them, like yellow cab, and I got one from United cab, which I brought that one last week, and I'm still waiting for the Jamaica request. I don't know what they want coming up with, so that's why I'm here, man, to also to notify myself about it. And I don't think I have more stuff and to bring it.
Do you have a letter from any of those companies purporting to say that they would hire you if you were given a license?
Like Yellow Cab?
Anybody?
No, but I do have from United Cab. They said they can hire me, but
But you have a letter?
I brought kind of like last week.
No date.
Oh, it was on a letterhead.
Sign it on it.
Okay, so we don't have one on letterhead as requested earlier? You have nothing?
I have this, which I have kind of like a hand signature on it.
But we need one on their letterhead with an official signature that we can have legal, just make sure that
No,
everything...
I don't have, because when I went back to him kind of like a second time, he said he's not going to do this all the time, kind of like that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so he said no, it didn't
Yeah, he
count,
said
okay. All right, well, counsel?
If I may, I know the last time that you were here, we had a bit of a discussion about your history and some of the convictions that you had. And I guess most concerning to me wasn't what the conviction was, but what it was for. The information that we were provided by legal is that you were arrested for assault with weapon when you intentionally drove your car toward a victim. So regardless of what you ended up pleading to, I mean, I think that's pretty concerning to me for a taxi cab driver with a record of using a vehicle to run into people, and he was convicted of that. So I think regardless of whether he gets a letter of intent from the cab companies, I would still move to deny this.
And I'll support that because I feel we typically have given probation, but it was always with the caveat that there be a support of a position during that probationary period, and I think we've given you the time to try to work through that, so I'm going to support that motion.
Six yes, 1 no.
All right. The appeal has been denied.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate your sticking to it, and maybe at some point you might come back.
Thanks.
Yeah. Item 37, on appeal by Conlon Properties of a decision by the Historic Preservation Commission regarding replacement of windows at 826 18th Street. We have item A, 37, is affirming the decision to conditionally approve, or B, an alternate resolution reversing the decision to conditionally approve. Mike.
Mayor, County, and members of the council, Michael Ludwig, Planning Administrator. Very quickly, I'll just cover some of the information that was presented to the Historic Preservation Commission. This is a historic photo from about 1910 of the subject property, which is to the right in this photo. As was shown at the Historic Commission meeting, the original building had a round kind of turret on the corner of it, and then a single-story porch. That was in 1901. Our fire insurance maps from 1920 show that the porch was extended all the way across the front of the structure at that point. And then around 1957, the actual living area of the building was extended out onto that porch area. This is a photo of the subject property. I've drawn with arrows the windows that were proposed to be 10 windows that were supposed to be replaced. Some of those have already occurred. So there's 4 on the south side of the building, 3 on the front, and then there's 2 within this porch area, which I have another photo of, and 1 on the side wall, which, I'm sorry for the darkness of that photo, there's a window right here, and 2 that are located right here on that porch. And these are those windows that basically the work had already begun on replacement of windows on the property. These are vinyl windows that were installed. This was previously 3 single windows. They've installed a single replacement window with, it appears to look like 3 windows, but they actually changed the opening where the windows are, and that would have required a building permit under our building code. Just replacing the like size without changing the opening can be done without a permit.
So you're saying it should have had a building permit, but it did not?
Technically, that construction should have had a building permit because of removal or changing the opening of the building.
When you say change, how would you define change in this?
Large, change it from 3 single windows. I mean, there was a portion of the framing that was removed between the windows.
Okay.
To accommodate a single unit.
Wait, but from top to bottom, did it change in size?
That I don't know. I would guess not.
Yeah.
But at least the middle supports.
So it would have been similar to the windows up above?
Correct.
Okay.
So regardless of whether a permit was required or not, a certificate of appropriateness is required in the Sherman Hill Historic District for any exterior alterations, including windows. These are just some photos of the interior of some of the existing windows that obviously had not yet been replaced. The Historic Commission, about a week before they reviewed this case, met on site, got a tour of the facility, looked at the windows. Obviously, work had commenced on the windows. There was a stop work order issued by city staff, and then that instigated the application for the Historic Commission. So they went out, took a look at the proposal, looked at the different windows, the conditions of those, and basically the commission in their review is first charged with determining whether or not the windows can be repaired. And in this instance, in their recommendation on the item, they authorized, they said that removal of the windows was appropriate, that repair was not necessarily reasonable. However, they did make a condition of their approval that the windows needed to be replaced with wood framed windows, not vinyl windows as were already installed in some of the locations.
So Mike, excuse me, with the windows that have already been installed that are vinyl, will those be left in place or would those have to be replaced?
The commission's action was to have those removed and replaced with proper windows for all 10.
For all 10?
Correct. So with that, I'm available if you have additional questions, but other than that, I believe the applicant is here to address the council.
Just one clarification. When you said there was a kind of a stop work order, was that after, so go leave that one up right there, will you, Mike? I see 5 right there, but you talked about 10 total. Where's the other?
Well, there were 2 more on this facade, so there were a total of 4 windows on the south building facade, 3 on this front portion, makes 7. There's an 8th window that's on the side of this porch, and then there are 2
9, 10.
On those are the 10 windows that were to be replaced.
And the stop work order happened after 5, before the last 5 could be
I believe
done?
after 5, correct.
And that, as near as you know, that's right there, what we're looking at is the way the house is today?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I do have one other question, and I know that I'd gotten this information earlier, but maybe if you could talk just for a second, Mike, on the other appeals that have come forward from Sherman Hill. I think there have been 8 or 9 total in the last 5, 6, 7 years, of which we as a council overturned just a couple of them, and it was based upon the carriage garages.
As far as appeals of the Historic Commission?
Correct.
Yeah, I do not have all of the specifics on that. I think in the blue letter, there was some information that Jason had presented about the numbers of appeals. Generally, the commission's decisions have generally been upheld. I know that they've held very consistent on window replacement as a commission, as far as requiring wood frame windows rather than vinyl windows in many circumstances.
And then the cost differential between the vinyl and the wood?
I believe in the blue letter outline, the applicant had asserted at the commission that the existing windows, or the windows they were placing in the property for the 10 windows, was about $5,000 to $6,000. And if they had to replace those with wood windows, they were alleging that that was going to be in the $10,000 to $12,000 range. The commission, I know at the hearing and reading through the minutes, had indicated that they thought that that number seemed high, based on their experience with replacement of windows on various projects and other applications that had come before the commission. So at least the record did have some information about that discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Mike? Seeing none?
Jim Conlon, owner of the property, 319 7th Street, Suite 5. I assume that you have on file here an appraisal from Nelson Appraisal stating this has no historic significance?
Just a minute.
Do they have that?
I've got a copy.
Why don't you go ahead? We've been putting vinyl windows on this property for almost 5 years. There's many more vinyl windows on the property.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Matt McKinney. My address is 666 Grand Avenue, Ruan Center, here in Des Moines, here on behalf of Conlon Properties. And Conlon Properties is seeking City Council approval tonight of its appeal from the December 5th, 2011 decision by the Historic Preservation Commission. As explained in our written appeal, the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission requires Conlon Properties to use wood windows while replacing these non-original windows in the building you see here, which is a steel-sided 7-unit apartment complex in Sherman Hills. Tonight I brought with me some renderings of the, I brought some renderings with me tonight of the house that you see here. However, the renderings include the proposed vinyl windows that are a uniform, what we would call a cocoa color. So we've got a comparison side by side. I've got a few copies here I'll just distribute.
Sir, this is a set and this is a set?
Yes, that's correct. 2 different sets.
We can pass one of those down or something.
Well, I'm sorry.
Each of us take one of each of them?
You got it. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't get one. All right.
There was a brief factual presentation. I just want to make sure we're operating on some of the same facts.
Sir, I'm going to allow, because people will see here in the audience, I want them to see what we see.
Absolutely.
Which one we want to cover.
Yep, that works. Well, I'll refer to them as we go along here. I just want to make sure you have them.
One's in.
Thank you. So I'll start off with a few background facts here. In September of 2011, the city of Des Moines issued an order to replace multiple windows on the first floor of this home, and specifically the first floor of the unit on the left, which is in this photo that's on the screen, where the white is depicted. And Conlon Properties, after receiving that work order to replace the windows, immediately sought to comply with the order to replace the windows. It was a Section 8 housing order that was issued. They sought to comply with the order by investing roughly $6,000 in this property to replace the windows that were identified in that report. And we believe we made that report, we provided that report as part of our appeal. Now, the damaged windows that were sought to be replaced are single-paned, single-locked, non-energy efficient windows. They were rotting and warped, and as Mr. Lugwood had mentioned earlier, they needed to be replaced, and it was unanimous at the commission level that these needed to be replaced as opposed to repair. The new and proposed windows are energy efficient. They're double paned as well as double locked windows, creating a safer, much more secure and more energy efficient apartment complex. I would also note, as I'll show you here in this second photo, that the proposed windows, this rendering here shows that the windows are the same size, the same shape, the same color, the same location, and as viewed from the sidewalk or the road, it's a uniform appearance. And so what we would propose is the vinyl down there in the bottom left, that is depicted in white here, would be treated, and they'd be the same color as the other windows in the building. So from the road, everything would be uniform. So we received the stop work order, we received the notice to replace the windows. We started replacing the windows. Of the 10 windows that we sought to replace, 5 of them were in at the time we received a stop work order. As soon as the stop work order was received, all construction ceased, and we immediately applied to the commission for a certificate of appropriateness. On November 30th of 2011, the commission reviewed Conlon Properties' application and heard arguments on these issues, and subsequently the commission filed its decision, and that decision required to remove the vinyl that's currently in there and to replace all windows. The white ones we've seen in the renderings here, as well as the windows that are still in the building, with wood windows. So based upon the requirement of wood, we filed this appeal. And I'd like to address a couple things with the City Council tonight. A lot of these things we pointed out in our written appeal, but first, the first issue I'd like to bring up is that these windows that are being replaced have little to no historical value whatsoever. Under the municipal code that governs in this instance, the commission was required to, and I quote, endeavor to approve proposals to alter structures with little historic value. That's the municipal code section 5831 sub C. And here, instead of endeavoring to approve a proposal for structures, namely these windows, that have little historical value, they required additional requirements, namely that you've got to have wood. And so I'd like to explain why these particular windows in this structure here have little to no historic value. This building, as was presented earlier, was originally constructed in the early 1900s. It was substantially reconstructed on a couple of times after that, and to the best of our knowledge, in roughly 1957 or so, we have a structure that stands there today that is entirely different than when it was originally constructed in the early 1900s. The building that you see there has steel siding as opposed to a wood or brick. And I think probably most telling is that when you look at the architectural guidelines for the historic district, as those were adopted by the Des Moines Planning and Zoning Commission, they identify the goals of this historic district in terms of protecting historical properties. And it specifically states, the resources of Sherman Hill, with the exception of the mid-20th century apartment complexes, date almost exclusively from the late Victorian periods, 1880 to early 1900s. And I find it interesting that these guidelines that were adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission specifically exclude from the Historic Commission guide, or Historic District guidelines, apartment complexes that were built in the mid-20th century. That's exactly what this is. This was reconstructed in the mid-20th century, and it's a 7-unit apartment complex. So the guidelines themselves essentially exclude this sort of property from the underlying reasons and rationale that we have the historic district to begin with.
As the council, I'm getting kind of a nod, then go ahead.
Go ahead.
How many more minutes do you think you're going to be presenting?
I can wrap it up in 5 minutes, if that works.
No, that's a little long.
Okay.
Couple minutes.
Fair enough. Thank you. I would just like to point out then that the decision of the Historic Commission does not contain any findings that any of the windows at issue in this home have any historical value whatsoever. Second, we made the argument to the Historic Commission that they've got to be reasonable. The code requires them to be reasonable in their analysis, and as part of that, they've got to consider cost. That was one of the things that we talked about. And I explained how, if we were required to comply with a requirement to have wood windows, the cost would be roughly $12,000 or in excess of $12,000. The cost for the vinyl windows was $6,000. And when I made that statement, the Commission completely ignored it in the sense that during the hearing, the Commission made it clear that they didn't really care about cost at all. And I'll quote, "We don't care how much they cost. It's not our problem." That's directly from the audio recording from the Historic Commission on November 30th of 2011. They didn't care about cost whatsoever. It didn't matter if it was a few $100s more, a few $1,000s more, double or triple the cost. Their position was that no matter what, vinyl wouldn't be accepted in the Sherman Hills neighborhood. And we've gone back to that same guideline, the Historic Commission guidelines as adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they specifically permit vinyl in the Sherman Hills neighborhood. For example, with respect to windows and doors, and specifically storm windows and screens, the guidelines state, and I'll quote, "Combination aluminum or steel or vinyl storms and screens may be used as substituted for wood. Exposed metallic frames are not appropriate. They should be anodized, painted, or in the case of vinyl, stained to match the trim colors." Well, that's exactly what we're doing here, staining the vinyl to match the trim colors throughout the rest of the property. It will be uniform, as we propose here tonight, from the road, from the sidewalk, wherever you're at. You're going to not be able to distinguish the difference between the wood that's there now and the proposed vinyl. I've got a number of other things I can address, but at this time, I'll take any questions or concerns that you guys have, and we can answer them.
I do have a question for you. Now, when you originally proposed this or went before the Historic District Commission to get their certificate of appropriateness, you did not have what you're showing up there now.
That is correct. We did not have.
So this is just developed in the last couple of weeks?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. Originally, we were looking at the, I'll put it up here, the first image you have.
Yeah.
This here.
Which is not appealing.
I understand. And so what we are attempting to do is make this uniform across the front of the home. Part of the decision behind the original white window is technically under the Historic Commission guidelines, color is not an issue. The Commission can't consider color.
Right.
It seems as though they did.
So can I ask legal a question here, Jeff? There's been this has been on the council agenda for a number of weeks. And I know that Mr. Conlon has been working with legal to try and come up with some resolution. I know that he has actually talked with Jack Porter, SHPO, and Historic Preservation, and Judy McClure, who worked with him on another project in Sherman Hill, trying to come up with some resolution. I'm not sitting here saying that Jack or others endorse this, because they haven't seen it, and they're not here tonight. My question would be, do we as a council have the ability to refer this back to I know we do on other boards and commissions, but to refer it back to the historic district to revisit this because we now have a new option that was not presented to them?
Generally, the council's role is to review the record that's been in front. I believe that the council, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the council would be able to refer this back to the Historic Preservation Commission if they want to provide additional information into the record. The stop work order would continue. They would not be able to do any work pending that. But if council wants to refer it back so they can submit whatever additional information they want to submit to the Historic Preservation Commission, they could do that.
I guess my view of the world is we've got two options here. We refer it back with this new information so that we can look at with no guarantees, or we can actually move forward and take a vote tonight. And personally, where I would be at on if we were to move forward and take a vote tonight, just because of the precedent that's been set, and I've discussed this with Jim, I would vote to affirm the Historic District Commission. So I see those, or you have the third option, which would be to completely overturn the Historic District. But I think from conversations that I've had that is likely not going to happen. So are we comfortable with referring it back to Historic District? I just like a nod from somebody.
Can I ask a couple questions, maybe? First off,
Christine, I also want to interject here. While I think Mr. Conlon might want to have a preference, I think it's our decision whether or not we want to send it back or not.
Absolutely. Oh, I agree.
So
That would be an option that.
love to hear his
Yeah.
preference, but I think that's our vote.
Yeah, I agree.
I think going back is senseless. You guys either make a decision here to uphold or we go to court.
Okay. That's what we needed. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and sit down, but there's a couple documents here I've referenced throughout the statements, including the appraisal, or not the appraisal, the costs of different, the wood versus vinyl. I just want to make sure they're formally part of the record and some other things. Okay? Including the...
I'll move to receive and file your photos and the documents you're going to hand us
Are
now.
these items that were presented to the commission?
No, they're new.
Not appropriate for submission to this record.
Okay, thank you.
As long as we can have the record reflect that.
You can have the record reflect that it's not appropriate to submit, I'm sure.
Okay, they will not be accepted?
It's not appropriate for the council to review them. It should not be accepted.
So you're going to withdraw your motion?
I will withdraw my motion. Thank you,
But
Jeff.
they could be initiated at a referral.
At the Historic District, if they
yeah.
were referred back. If we referred it back, they could be. That's correct.
Sir?
Yes.
I had just a couple technical questions for you. The photo that we're looking at right now has the white, and you have a different photo. Is your intention to pull those out and put new windows in, or are you painting or staining those?
They have to. That's the recommendation.
They would be, it's my understanding they would be pulled out and they'd be replaced with windows, vinyl windows, that are the same color as the remaining windows in the home. The wood windows that you see, for example, on the second floor there, the vinyl would match identically the color to the wood window.
And I think you have asserted that there's already a bunch of vinyl windows on the property?
It's my understanding there may be other vinyl windows elsewhere. I have not been out to physically observe them myself.
We've been doing that for up to 5 years. I have $250,000 in upgrades to that property that's in no mortgage. It's valued at $140 for tax purposes. And as you know, assessed values are going down everywhere.
And I had a question for our staff, if that's all right.
Okay.
Mike, a real technical question. In his presentation, he made comment about the historic district's guidelines contemplating vinyl windows.
Yeah.
Can you respond to that and maybe?
Sure. And actually, that was addressed during the meeting by the commission. There are provisions that talk about storm windows and that being able to be a metal or a vinyl material. And it was discussed at the hearing, and the statement was made that while those are contemplated for storm windows, it's because storm windows are easily removed from a property. The actual window, not the storm window, is a more of a permanent and more costly endeavor, and so that's kind of the differentiation in the code. Just for the record, once again, I went through the minutes, and there were some statements that were made about repair. They were told to replace the windows by the inspector. The actual order that was shown to the commission said repair or replace the window. It did not absolve the applicant from getting a certificate of appropriateness from the Planning Commission to do that work first, nor did it absolve them from getting a permit for any alterations to the openings on the property. Mr. Conlon has been before the Historic Commission before on other properties in the district, so there is a knowledge of the process. The 10 windows that were proposed in the application for replacement at this time are the only 10 windows that the commission made a decision on. If they want to replace additional windows in the future, they would need to go to the Historic Commission and receive approval to do that. And I would imagine that the commission would likely make a recommendation for wood windows at that time also. And then finally, there was a statement about that the commission had stated that it was not, they couldn't consider cost. The minutes reflect that Shirley Shaw on the Historic Preservation Commission stated that they follow their guidelines that have been approved for them to use to the extent possible. She expressed sympathy for the predicament that some of the windows have already been installed and may have to be replaced, noted that cost is not the commission's concern. And then Chair Holderness clarified that cost is not in their purview as described by another commissioner during the previous discussion. So there was empathy for the applicant at the hearing. It was not just a statement of not caring about the cost of the project. So just wanted to accurately reflect what was in the actual minutes of the hearing. So.
Michael, and maybe to Mr. Conlon both, there was a statement made that over the last number of years you've replaced a lot of windows in here with vinyl or something?
Mr. Mayor, I've replaced a number of windows in this, probably 20 before we got to these 10 in this property with vinyl because they're rotten. With the steel siding, they tend to rot behind the siding as water comes in. And Mr. Ludwig's comment too, I own one other property, and we manage 8,000 residential properties. I think we're knowledgeable in what we do. We build about 200 a year. We use vinyl windows in all. I own one other property that went through the historic process. I was not present. I was represented. People assumed that I knew. I didn't know. I would swear to that. But when it got to Washington, I became involved because the guidelines were that I was to spend $821,000 on the windows. And finally, through lobbyists in Washington, we got that down to $121,000. But it came out of Des Moines, my spending $800. So I had a little burr under my saddle on the whole thing. But I didn't know. You have an appraisal on file that there's no historic value here.
Did you get a permit to do all those other replacements in this building?
No, I didn't know that I was supposed to. I had no knowledge of it.
If I may just for a moment, if the City Council would prefer to refer this issue back to the Historic Commission so the Commission could consider
all of this new information?
That's correct. We would appreciate that.
Well, now I just heard from Jim that he wanted to vote up or down.
I always get overruled by lawyers.
Thank you.
Do you use them often, sir?
Well, that's what you hired him for, Jim, so. Okay, so hearing you make that comment and with the new information based upon legal direction, I would like to make a motion that we refer it back to the Historic District Commission to consider the new information, which would be the appraisals, the pictures that you've shown us with the new product that you've just been able to determine, and understanding that there's no guarantee where it will come. But I also am sensitive to the time that this has taken to the state. And so hopefully when it comes back, I guess it won't come back to the council unless you disagree with it again, and then we'll have to make a final decision. Correct.
I'd also,
You think you're going to be back?
I'd like information on the no historical value thing and what impact that has on the, just for legal or whatever. I mean, clearly, I think that's a compelling case that if there is no historical value to it and it's been designated as such, I'd like to see that and what effect that has on the decision-making from their perspective.
And just as a comment, not particularly on this case, but, you know, I've looked at historic properties around the country as we looked at it with an eye sort of on what we're doing in the city of Des Moines. I've seen buildings that have been taken down brick by brick and rebuilt brick by brick with the same bricks to do it. It's interesting. This looks like it, at one point or another, was a gorgeous property.
It does.
And I think the intent, at least when we were looking in this before and from planning and zoning, was to put something in place that would return some of these places to some of their former grand, in this case, looks like a Victorian place, doesn't exactly right now. And some folks have spent a lot of money doing that in a lot of other buildings. As near as I can tell, that's not the request here in front of us, but I think it would be important to me, and I think to all of us, to understand exactly what the interpretation would be and what the use of certain products would be moving forward, because I think this is not going to be a isolated instance. There's lots of properties down there that need significant upgrading, and I think they need to figure out what does it look like. I mean, what are the rules moving forward here?
Fair enough.
I agree with your comments, and tied to Brian's, I agree. My concern on all these, you know, historic district issues like this is that, you know, we want to preserve the character of that neighborhood. We want to encourage and foster the rebuilding, as you described, Mayor. But I also worry that overreaching sometimes will, you know, harm our ability, you know, to have kind of common sense to it. I know it's hard in a district because it's kind of one size fits all. Everybody has to abide by the same things. But I would like us to be, you know, really careful that we don't put ourselves in a position where we've overreached and we can't then accomplish the goals that we want because we lose public support for it. So, you know, in this, I think Brian asked a good question. How does the real historic value of a particular project change the scope of that need to, you know, work within those guidelines? It's always troubled me. We talked about it not long ago when we passed the River Bend, you know, issue. And as a result of that, I think they worked long and hard to try and make sure that it was targeted to the specific, you know, streets and properties that were historic in their area.
I think in some response to that, Mr. Coleman, I agree with you. But it's tough to say you'll have one family or investment group that is willing to take a sevenplex back to a single-family home, such as it was originally, and strip off all that stuff, all the metal siding and the vinyl siding, and put it back to the way it was, and spend probably unusually large amounts of money to get that accomplished. And you could make that tour down through Sherman Hill and see a number of those houses where they have actually done that. And some of them are sort of in the process of doing it that haven't quite been able to get there.
Right.
But I do think
it is extraordinary what's happened there, and it's beautiful, and their properties are fantastic that have been rehabbed.
So anyway, we have a motion?
A motion to refer it back to Historic District that will give you the opportunity to present all of the new information you gathered, and then hopefully we don't have to have it come back here. Thank you.
7 yes?
All right. The next item is item 38 on the vacation conveyance of the north-south alley lying between Southwest 9th and Southwest 12th Streets and running from Virginia Avenue to Pleasant View Drive to multiple property owners for $300 total. Council Communication number 12-185. A is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and B is the final consideration of the ordinance above. And the waiver is requested by Jennifer Kearns, and it requires 6 votes. Anybody here to speak on item 38?
I'll move item 38A and B.
Wonder how the vote would go to get rid of the alleys in Sherman Hill.
It wouldn't go well.
Seven
Especially not
yes.
the brick ones.
Item 39, items regarding request from Home Inc. for property at 1303 and 1305 Clark Street and 1512 and 1516 13th Street. A is amending the Des Moines 2020 Community Character Plan to revise the existing future land use designation from low-density residential to low-medium-density residential. B is a hearing on the rezoning of the property from R160, one-family low-density residential, to limited R3 multifamily residential to allow development of 2 small-lot, 2-family dwellings and 1 small-lot, single-family dwelling. C is the first consideration of the ordinance above, and D is the final consideration of the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the applicant and requires 6 votes. All right.
Good evening. My name is Pam Carmichael. I'm the Director of Home Incorporated. I live at 1504 Thompson Avenue in Des Moines. I'm here tonight to seek your support on this item, all A, B, C, and D, in order to begin a project that Home Inc.'s had in process for a while now. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. The drawing's not very good. But we're asking for rezoning of this site, and this is Clark Street here, this is 13th, and this is Norton. The way this is configured is we actually have 4 lots here. This is a permanent supportive housing project that we actually started to work on during the time that the Thrive It Builds initiative was going on in King Irving, Mondamon neighborhood. We worked with this, that was between the city and nonprofits and the 2 neighborhood organizations. The purpose of this project is to actually develop 5 units of permanent, affordable rental housing that's considered supportive housing. This fits with what we believe is the community's goal of reducing the length of stay in homeless shelters and transitional facilities by homeless individuals. In this project, Home Inc. will act as the developer, general contractor, and owner of the 5 units. And what we have, the reason we're requesting the zoning is in order to make this project cost feasible, we're going to put in 5 units rather than your typical 4. We have these units, which would be duplexes. There would be 2 that would face Clark and 2 that would face 13th. And then we have 1 single family that would be on 13th Street. And we need the zoning change in order to accommodate the 5 units. These units, which Home Inc., as I said, will be developer, general contractor, and owner of the units, we will contract with House of Mercy to maintain and manage those units. We will be working with House of Mercy on this project. The women from House of Mercy will be relocated into this project. We feel the most important element of this project is that our partnership with Mercy will allow the women to retain the supportive services that they've been receiving while they've been in the House of Mercy, and we believe that that will help them continue in their success to become independent and self-sufficient. We have letters of support from the King Irving Neighborhood and Mondamon Presidential Neighborhood Associations. I've just recently received these. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to pass them out. We did not have them at the time of the planning and zoning meeting, but we do have them now, so we've received approval from both organizations. So I don't know if I can pass them out or not.
Our lawyer's very strict on passing stuff out to us.
Sorry. But anyway, I have them, and I guess I can show you.
This we can, right?
Of them, because I didn't have these to give to the planning.
Yeah, we can.
I'd move to receive and file.
I was teasing him.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
I want approval,
Opposed?
okay? To date, Home Inc. has raised about $600,000 on this project from a number of sources. We have commitments from the Federal Home Loan Bank, the Polk County Housing Trust Fund, and the City of Des Moines. We are now awaiting our final decision from IFA, which we should get on the 2nd. If we're successful of getting the funding, then we would hope, and if this passes, we cannot go forward with this project without the zoning change. We're hoping that if we are successful in all elements of this, we'll break ground this summer and have occupancy by the end of this year or beginning of 2013. I'm thankful for your consideration of our requests, and I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
Pam,
Yes.
2 questions for you. If you don't get IFA funds, will the project go forward?
We'll have to look for another source, Chris.
And how much are we talking about?
We're talking about a loan of $150,000 at 0%.
Okay.
So, I mean, we'll continue to look. Right now, we have options on the land because IFA's been kind of thrown in at the last minute because of some changes with a couple other funders. We did not buy the land. We have donation of 1 lot from the city, donation of 2 lots from Jack DeLeon Construction, and then acquisition of 1 lot. And we cannot, if we get the IFA funding, we're not able to move forward on acquisition or anything with it until we get environmental clearance, which the city has agreed to do for us in this project.
And then my other question is, will these be taxable, non-taxable?
They will be taxable at the end of 10 years since Home Inc. is retaining the ownership. We have talked with House of Mercy about once the debt is retired, about them taking ownership, and in that event, then they may seek tax exemption because they are an exempt entity. However, there have been instances that I have seen where if you're receiving any type of income from a property, if they're cash flowing, and these will, that you are unable to get the exemption. So I really can't answer that. But under Home Inc., we will not seek the exemption.
Okay, thank you.
Pam, I think this is great, and I'm happy to see the letters of support from the neighborhoods. So unless there's more questions, comments for Pam, I would move item 34A, B, C, and D.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
And with Pam's history, she's done a great job with other projects, and I have all the confidence in the world this will go through, so it's
Does
good.
an excellent job.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Pam.
7 yes.
40, on the rezoning of 931 Southeast 21st Street from M1 Light Industrial to Limited M2 Heavy Industrial to correct a publication error. A is the first consideration in the ordinance above, and B is the final consideration in the ordinance above. The waiver is requested by the WRA and requires 6 votes. Anyone here to speak on 931 Southeast 21st? None?
We actually dealt with this a couple weeks ago and passed it, but because of a publication error, it had to come back. So I'll move 40A and 40B.
Seven yes.
Item 41 is on a request from Imperial Properties to rezone 4141 East 14th Street from C2 General Retail and Highway-Oriented Commercial to M1 Light Industrial for a chrome plating operation. Roll call contains an alternative motions and council communication number 12-191.
Mayor, County, and members of the council. Michael Ludwig, Planning Administrator. This item was brought to you back in January. At that time, the council continued the hearing until April to give the business operator the opportunity to address some key requests for information that staff had identified. Those included a business plan, a financial plan, and either an architect or licensed contractors' plans for renovation of the structure to accommodate the air handling and hazardous material storage on the property. Ultimately, this has been about a 30-month process so far. The first notice of violation of the zoning code was issued 30 months ago on this project. 15 months ago, that enforcement action resulted in a court order requiring chrome plating operations to cease on this property. And in that, it was identified the hazardous nature of the operation, as well as the need to store and move materials appropriately with proper notification to the city. Since that time, they did apply for rezoning of the property to an industrial classification. That was one of the first steps that was needed to resolve their zoning issues. But since January, staff has had monthly contact, made calls to the applicant to find out where they were at. I'm sorry, not the applicant, the tenant, to find out where they were at on their business plan and possible improvements to the property. They did not have any. They actually were looking at other sites in the city as possible relocation, including their previous location in the city. Unfortunately, even moving back to their previous location would require compliance with our current building codes, because they've been out of that property and it's been vacant for more than 6 months. So we're kind of at a crossroads here on this rezoning for the Imperial Properties location. The Planning Commission did recommend denial of that M1 zoning for the property. As of last Friday, the indications from the tenant were that they were looking at other locations, and we did make them aware of the need for compliance at those other locations. But we still have not received a business plan or anything to review on that. I do know that our economic development staff did contact, sent out through our Des Moines partnership to find out if there were available properties in the metro that could help accommodate this use. And there were no existing facilities found that met the qualifications for the hazardous materials and operations. So there would, no matter where they go, it will require some sort of alteration to the structure that they would go into. And most importantly, they do need to notify us before they move that, so we can, our fire department can monitor the removal of the hazardous materials from the property. I think at the last hearing there was a lot of testimony about the quality of the work that the company does. We are not questioning the quality of the work of their chrome plating, the finished product, but we do believe that it should comply with our building code and fire code for storage of those chemicals and processes. So with that, we are recommending denial of the rezoning this evening.
All right. Anyone to speak on this? Or does anybody have any questions of Michael? Seeing none?
Hi, I'm Tammy Jacobs, 2404 East 11th. I'm the operations manager. And when talking with Terry, we did find out that there's really no facility that's going to be move-in ready. And so the next step is, whittling it down to which one's going to need the least amount of work. And I said I'd rather die before going back there, but seriously, looking at our old location, which has sprinkler, is in the zoning. Going to meet with Sue Donovan, to just get exactly, but I'm thinking the only thing that it doesn't have is a ventilation system. And we're hoping that, she confirms that, and then we would go forward with seeing, what it would take to get a ventilation system in there. Big reason we kind of want to move back there is because the building's for sale now, which, you know, all the years that we were there, it was never for sale, you know, and do not want to get into another lease situation, you know. I mean, it's a big operation to move, and, you know, we want to go somewhere that we are going to be for good, you know. I mean, if this location could even be approved, you know, us not even going in and immediately starting production, if it's something that we could, you know, get the secondary containment for the plating solutions and, you know, get it out of the location that's not zoned for it and that's not sprinkled, I think that would be, you know, a good start for everyone. So we are just kind of waiting to hear from Sue Donovan. I think she's going to meet out there with us and let us know exactly what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
I had an opportunity to talk with Tammy today, and they've got the property and site that they think will be back to where they were before, like she had mentioned to us. And I would hope that we could give her some additional time to meet with Sue and identify what needs to be done and whether or not they can do that. And I'd like to move that we give her another 60 days to try to complete the design and determine what they actually need to do that building.
Appreciate that.
One question, the item before us is the rezoning of 4141 East 14th.
Mm-hmm.
You don't much care what happens with this.
And I would deny, I'd vote to
public
deny the
use.
rezoning of that property. Yeah.
Okay.
So your motion, Bob, then is to continue
To 60
Give them 60 days?
and let him have an opportunity to meet with and work with Sue on the project, yeah.
I just think it's real important to keep a lot of communication ongoing with all of the city staff, because that's going to be helpful to you.
Okay.
We all want to help you get this done.
Don't they have to have permission to be there for 60 days?
You want to continue?
I want to deny the zoning. What do you think? Is that okay?
Well, you can move to deny the zoning, but
Yeah.
so then you're moving to direct staff not to enforce the code.
Yeah. I would move to deny the zoning, but the staff to work with them and give them 60 days, see if they can't find another location that, so they can continue their business.
So what would be the appropriate motion that would achieve that, Mr. Attorney?
I believe that would be two separate motions, Your Honor. First would be a motion to deny the zoning for alternative A that's on the roll call. And the second motion would be to direct the city manager and legal to work with the company for the next 60
With
days.
Tammy and, okay.
For the next 60 days to try to come up with a permanent solution.
Okay.
But
Right. So we have motion one, which is to deny.
Right.
7 yes?
All right, and the second motion
Give them 60
Which would
days.
be-
is to give them 60 days
Which
to
would be-
refer to the manager and city legal and appropriate other departments to see what we can do to try to accommodate you and get you in the right spot and
Yes, sir.
backplating. They do a great job, by the way.
Seven yes?
All right.
Thank you so much.
You know, Mayor, everything I've heard, I've never done business with these folks, but all I hear
think you
is
should.
quality. Well, I just ordered 9 pieces out of Covina, California today, which I really didn't like doing. So you're right. So I hope you get back into business.
We do, it's really just, you know, don't know the system and kind of fumbling our way through it here, so. But Bob, I'll be following you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Item 42 on the proposed lease purchase agreement to acquire certain items of equipment consisting of 9 dump trucks, an asphalt paver, and a compact motor control, not to exceed $2 million. Council Communication number 12-189. A is the authorization for additional action. Anybody here to speak on this item? Seeing none, could we have a motion on the,
I'll move 42A.
Seven yes.
Item 43, in the renewal of a parking lease agreement with Nelson Development LLC for 418 East Grand Avenue and to continue to May 7th, 2012 at 5 p.m. So the motion actually is to continue. Could we have a motion to do same?
I'll move to continue.
All right, it's been moved. Anybody to speak on it? Hearing none.
Seven yes.
All right, item 44 on 2012 lease improvement contract 1, resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designation of the lowest responsible bidder as Riley Construction, Inc., Chris R. Riley, President, for $438,067. Council Communication number 12-179. A is approving the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Is there anybody in the audience here to speak on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Move.
Levy improvements.
Seven yes.
45, the 2012 sewer repair contract 1 resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, receive and file bids, and designation of the lowest responsible bidder is J&K Contracting LLC, Jeremy Feldman, President, $989,947.56. Council Communication number 12-182. A is approving the contract and bond and permission to sublet. Anyone here on sewer repair?
Move.
It's been moved. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Seven yes.
Item 46, on Tuttle Street at Southwest 8th and Southwest 9th Street, traffic signals, resolution approving the plan, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, and receive and file bids, and designation of the lowest responsible bidder is Baker Electric, Inc., Britt Baker, CEO, $224,840. Council Communication number 12-186. A is approving the contract and the bond and permission to sublet. Anybody here to speak on that item? Tuttle Street traffic signals.
I'll move 46A.
Moved.
Seven yes.
All right, completes the hearings at 6:07. Item 47 is approving the consideration of a Class E liquor license renewal for Fast Mart at 1401 Buchanan Avenue. Is there anyone here to speak on this item?
Yes, my name is Khalid Khan. Last time I come in here, I can explain you guys everything. Now I have the police explain you everything. Any questions you guys have with me, you can ask me.
Okay. Any questions for our applicant here? Mr. Mahaffey?
Are you familiar with the program that has been set up with the police department and the guidelines for you to operate within, and that
Yes,
if
I'm
this is
operate
approved?
everything with the police in a city too.
Okay. I know legal and the police department that have come together to work out a program and have supplied it to the candidate, and I think that's going to help in keeping the students not under control over there.
Yes.
With your help and your added police and the added workers within your organization and that.
Yes, I'm doing everything best for myself. I keep out the student in my parking lots. I'm cooperating with the city and the police.
Yeah.
Whatever police say, I can cooperate with them. And police, if you want a question.
Yeah, so. Just our legal
All right,
advisor.
could legal sort of articulate, or would you like to have the police department articulate sort of what the agreement is so everybody understands what we're up against and doing here?
Sure, if the PD wants to run through the different restrictions or additional guidelines that they've asked the business to operate under, which I believe they have
agreed to?
operate under that, agreed to, that would be fine. And we can memorialize that into a detailed written operational agreement as we've done for past licensees, if that's council's direction. Jeff, you want to go ahead and this is the items there.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Lieutenant Jeff Edwards, Des Moines Police Department Vice Narcotics Control Section. We came to an agreement with Mr. Khan about adding some additional employees to conduct specifically surveillance activity, or I'm sorry, security activity. He's agreed to add some additional hours for his employees that are going to be designated strictly for maintaining security both outside the business and inside the business. He's limited his number of students to that are allowed inside the business at one time, added no trespassing, no loitering signs, continues to agree to work with the police department. There was a mobile taco vendor that was stationed in the parking lot. He agreed to remove that person from the property, also to help with the students gathering there. Mr. Khan's been very cooperative with our requests.
There's sort of a list here of the things that he has agreed to and what he is currently doing to promote that. Would you mind quickly reading those into the record?
I don't have the list with me, sir. Thank you. This is the list of the agreements that Mr. Khan agreed to do. This was dated March 28th of 2012. The liquor aisle that he has inside the store is roped off during school hours. No students are allowed down that aisle. A sign is posted on the front door that does not allow more than 5 students in the business at a time. This is enforced by an employee that is currently working from 10 to 2 every day, specifically assigned as security. No tobacco sales to any students or friends of students, regardless of age, during school hours. Mr. Khan does not sell to young people, even if they are legal to purchase, if he believes they are buying for the purpose of giving tobacco products to minors. His concern was that an 18-year-old or 19-year-old friend of a student would come in and make a tobacco purchase just to give the product to the underage student friend that was out in this parking lot. So he refuses to sell to those folks when he believes that that's going to be their intent. He has the no trespassing, no loitering signs that I spoke of earlier, and that's on all sides of his property. Mr. Khan has signed a no trespass letter with the police department that gives us authorization to enforce trespassing on his property. His security employees will make regular checks on all sides, including behind the business, to eliminate loitering and smoking, and he does not allow any smoking on his property. He agreed to eliminate the mobile taco vendor that I spoke of earlier and extend the hours of a security person from 10 to 2 Monday through Friday. Additionally, he's going to add staff to allow 2 employees from 2 p.m. until close every day. That's it.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. If I could, I would also like added to the agreement something to the effect of restriction on selling some of the synthetic substances, the incense, and so forth, and adding that in to the agreement if we could.
I think he's already agreed to do that, so if you're okay with that, could we add that to the language?
And when police officer Ron called me for the same synthetic things, right there I stopped. Yeah, I'm going to agree with the police. This is the wrong thing, I don't want to sell.
Okay, so you're okay with adding that to the,
Yes.
okay.
So, okay, we've got the list of items that he's agreed to. What's the enforcement process and what will be our options? Say that we go back in 6 to 8 weeks and they're not compliant with some of the different items listed. So what would be the next step then?
Judy Bradshaw, Chief of Police. He needs to know, and I think he'll get the message tonight, that his additional employees that he says he's hiring for security, that means the optics of the kids gathering in the back of his building, in the front of his building, the side of his building. He's accountable for that, and we're going to hold him accountable for the loitering, for the issues of the smoking in the back of the building. He can no longer turn a blind eye to that kind of behavior. So we're going to be out watching and enforcing, what we can in the way of this agreement. And then from a legal perspective, we would bring that back to the council if we find that they're not contacting, if they're not moving the kids along, if they're not cooperating with this security plan. I'd ask, Doug Phillip to speak to that. But I mean, we're gonna be looking for the violations, Christine, of the loitering, some of the kids that are gathering that have been allowed to smoke on his property that he has ignored. And I think that's probably what has got the schools upset, and rightly so. He thinks that because he can't see it, and it's not in front of his building, that he's not responsible. Well, he is. I'm going to ask Doug Phillip, our legal advisor, to speak to this as well.
Mayor, members, Council, Doug Phillip, Legal Department. I think the question was what happens if there is a violation of the agreement of these list of items that go along here, if I understand the question correctly. What we could do is simply utilize that as a basis for denying it next time it comes up for review or for renewal.
My only concern with that is the amount of time you have to wait. I mean, it could happen early in the process, but then our hands are really tied. Is that correct?
I think that's correct. Go ahead.
I think that we would, the council would also, for example, if things were monitored quarterly or monthly or however council decides to do that, the fact that he's entered into an agreement and has agreed that these are the appropriate standards by which he should run his business, if he doesn't do that, I think that that would be at least arguably evidence for a revocation that he is not meeting the good moral character standard that's provided in the law already, because he's agreeing that this is the appropriate standard for the business.
Okay.
I've got a quick question for Mr. Khan. You sell cartons of cigarettes?
No.
No, you sell packs of cigarettes?
Pack cigarettes.
Do you sell individual cigarettes?
Single cigarettes?
Yes.
Against the law, selling.
Okay, good.
So you don't sell them?
No, I don't want to sell this one. I work in like 22 years. I never got a ticket, any cigarettes and a beer too.
Okay.
Because I'm very straight for this.
All right.
I have 4 teenagers. You got to listen very carefully to the questions you ask.
I have a kid too.
Okay, so,
yeah.
Can we, Bob?
Yep. Yeah, I would like to propose a motion to move to grant the license subject to execution of an operational agreement containing all restrictions and conditions currently in place and agreed to by the applicant, and including no less than quarterly compliance review for applicant compliance with the agreement.
Well said.
Well said.
Thanks to our legal counsel.
I'm going to vote for that, Bob, but I guess if there are any issues, never again.
Yep.
Never. How long I have?
Don't even need to come back as far as I'm concerned.
You can't see any over there. Thank you very much.
And I know we're going to be criticized by some, but I think this is an opportunity for him to prove and for us to work with him.
Well, but it goes back to the issue that we've had discussed many times at this council table about who has control.
We have a we have a bit, a bad situation in that we don't have ultimate control. And I think this makes a bad situation with a property that's had a license for a long time right across from East a little bit better. And if it wasn't for the signed agreement, not just on this, but now a principled precedent with a list of expectations, I feel good about this, and it's something that I'd like to have back the final form. So as we talk to other operators and deal with this, we might be able to use this as a framework moving forward.
6 yes, 1 no.
All right. Thank you. Have your marching orders, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, item 48, which is dismissing proceedings on the proposed rezoning of 1241 East 38th Street, requested by Arnold DeWitt.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. My name is Arnold DeWitt. I live at 1642 Lakeview Drive in Pleasant Hill, and I'm asking the council to hold up the dismissal of my proceedings for rezoning until the next council meeting meets, so that I can have an opportunity to try and work out the details on the tax abatement that the city's providing.
Okay, so you're asking to continue this hearing?
Yes.
Right. It's not a hearing.
Well, or at least the proceedings. How about we're going to continue the proceedings? Do you feel better about that one?
I do. It's not a hearing.
Okay. Proceedings is fine with me.
Okay. Anybody else to speak on this? Seeing none. Council? Ms.
Question
Hensley?
or comment, I guess, and this would be for Phil Delafield. I know Mr. DeWitt's project was started last year. I'm not exactly sure when last year, but I had a similar project on Park Avenue for storage facilities. And as the council will recall, we made changes to tax abatement during that period of time. And I think so what's happened is that they're caught in this transition period. I'm not asking that we negotiate up here tonight or do anything, but I just would look to legal and all the appropriate city staff that if we have other projects that were caught in this transition period, is there anything that we can do to work with them? And I'm thinking of the project on Park Avenue that we have, which is, I believe, very similar. I'm not sure if they've decided to go forward or not, but we have projects that potentially may not go forward because of the change we made. And I don't think that was our intent when we changed abatement. We were working to provide some consistency in the commercial areas. So I just ask that we look at that and take that into account.
We will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know in discussing with Mr. DeWitt, that would be very helpful for him. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I've moved that we continue this to, continue the proceedings to our next meeting.
Seven yes?
All right, we have one extra item. It's a request from Councilmember Skip Moore to discuss establishing a city policy that all city boards and commissions be gender balanced. Mr. Moore.
I was at the annual conference for the Iowa district of the American Association of University Women last Saturday, and after I got on the internet and looked at some of their goals and their missions, a couple of them were gender equity in pay, which if you saw the report that came out last week, there's still about 22% difference, which I think is a travesty, but we can't do much about that here. But another one that they're looking at is gender balance on boards and commissions. And as we all know, we've been required by the state on certain boards and commissions to be gender balanced in the future as much as possible. I would like to refer this to the manager and to legal to take a look at all boards and commissions that we might make appointments to see if it's feasible, and how we would, I think we should ensure that they're all gender balanced as much as possible.
I know we have boards and commissions that are tilted one way or another. I'm happy to support them taking a look at it. I guess I'd want to just make sure we're not directing them to do something, but to look at it, because I'm not quite sure I support the concept. Actually, I don't think I necessarily supported the state law when they passed it, because I think we owe the taxpayers the best people to serve. So I'm happy to take a look at it. I just don't want that to be misinterpreted as, before I know enough about it.
And I think the idea here is to refer to staff to look over those boards and commissions. There are certain ones that we're required to do that on already. And let's see which ones are in the balance and see what we can do to get that balance.
Bill?
Sorry.
So is that your motion?
Yes.
Seven yes.
All right. Prior to our adjournment and reconvening as the Board of Health, City Manager would like to make a little announcement. We've got sort of a new Facebook page out here, and he's going to tell us about it real quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. At your place, you'll find a draft press release which announces our new city Facebook page. I just wanted to draw that to your attention. The press release will probably go out tomorrow. It is a new adventure for us as a city as a whole. Several of our departments have Facebook pages now. They work really well. It does take a fair amount of care and maintenance of these things to do them properly, but at the same time, it is a great way for us to enhance our communication with citizens, and we're going to give it a shot. Laura Graham in my office, working with IT staff, has done a lot of work putting this together, so I look forward to its implementation, and hopefully you will as well.
All right.
Live now?
Ellie?
Do you want me to move that? Otherwise, I'll move to adjourn and reconvene as the Board of Health.
Let's go with your latter motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? We now sit as the Board of Health. Number one is approving the legal department to proceed with a court action seeking authority to abate the public nuisance at the following locations. A, 1900 Lincoln Avenue is a fire-damaged main structure, and B is 1400 Mondamon Avenue as a main structure. Anyone here to speak on either one of those properties, 1900 Lincoln or 1400 Mondamon? Hearing none.
Move item 1 and A and B.
We have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. Hopefully everybody will vote pretty soon.
Seven yes.
All right, can we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye. We said adjourn. Thank you all.
I just